inhabitants of peach trees. This is Judge Dredd.
Let him talk.
In case some people have forgotten, this block operates under the same rules as the rest of the city. Mama is not the law. I am the law. Mama is a common criminal. Guilty of murder. Distribution of the narcotic known as slow-mo. And as of now, under sentence of death. Any who obstruct me in carrying out my duty will be treated as an accessory to her crimes. You have been warned. And as for you, Mama, judgment time.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains themes and language not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, to the High Tech Low Life podcast with your hosts, Eric and Josh. I'm Eric.
I'm Josh, and I'd like to insert a comrades into that.
Absolutely. Comrades and comrades. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm slightly mystified by comrades, but okay.
I had to. Each one had two. You can't just say comrades. So I don't know what comrades are, though.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter. We are here for another week to talk about a little movie that was suggested by our ex-followers, by one of our ex-followers.
Just nah.
No? Okay.
Nah.
It was suggested by a friend of the show, actually, right?
Yes, friend of the show from, I don't know, 10 episodes ago? 15, maybe?
From episode 10. I do remember that.
Oh, okay, so like 13.
Yeah, this is 23. Jeff
his
from
name's
Astronomica
Jeff.
suggested
Yeah.
it, and it is the movie Dredd from 2011, right?
2012.
2012.
Yes.
Now, full disclosure, this is not the movie we intended to cover today. We intended, and you might have heard on the last episode, especially if you're binging these bad boys, that we were going to do the 1994 Eddie Furlong masterpiece, Brain Scan.
I was wondering where you were going to go with, like, I don't know, because when we were doing Giant in a Minute, we always referred to it as 1995, action, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Really was wondering where you're going to go with that, and you just went with masterpiece. So,
I mean, Eddie Furlong masterpiece. I feel like it's his greatest work and what he's most famous for.
sure, yeah, definitely.
He is famous for starring next to people, redheads with mullets. I don't know. There's one in T2. I don't know if there's another one.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. We watched Brain Scan for a Patreon episode that is going to be out soon, if not already. And it is not cyberpunk.
It is not cyberpunk, and it is very bad.
Yeah, and I don't mind watching bad stuff. That's part of the deal we signed up for. But it made Reminiscence look very cyberpunk. And
Oh, yeah.
last week, we determined it wasn't very cyberpunk at all. So
Yeah. It was way less cyberpunk than Cyber Vengeance.
definitely.
And
Way less than, I would even say, like Universal Soldier.
Yeah, it was really the least cyberpunk thing we've even begun to look at. So we decided, fuck that noise. Also, the movie didn't have a lot to, not a lot of meat to dig into.
That's
So,
true. If it had been good on top of all that, we might have stuck with it just because we
Yeah.
liked it and it's worth talking about. But it was just a run of the mill bad '90s horror movie that wasn't even good at that.
yeah, that we falsely remembered as being kind of cyberpunk.
Yeah, I mean, it had the '90s aesthetic of the computers and ostensibly the main character is going into a video game, but he wasn't even going into the video game. He was just being hypnotized by a video game, and it wasn't even like a cool. It was dumb. It was bad.
Yeah, it was dumb and bad.
Check out our Patreon episode on it.
Yeah. It was dumb and bad. You'll get to hear some guys become just mystified at what the fuck is going on and why we're here.
Yeah, you also get to hear us decide in real time that we shouldn't cover it. So
Yeah. So we're doing something different.
yeah, we're doing Dredd, and Dredd, Dredd is great and also bad. And
Yeah.
it's a very the great side of not the great as a podcast topic. The great side is that there's not a lot of meat on the movie to talk about. It'll be jumping from various action scene, but overall, the story it's trying to tell, I think there's actually a lot to talk about, especially judging by the fact that on Twitter you linked a book written about the subject.
A whole ass book.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get into it. I think it was a good suggestion, and it's been on our list for a while, and it was the perfect one to fill in the gap here. So
yeah, I think Jeff's suggestion was just dead on. Like, yes, we can do that. We've both seen it before, I think
it's not like one of our other criteria was we don't want to burn something that we can actually watch for a Patreon down the road, and I don't think this movie doesn't do well as a watch along because it's a lot of action and shooting and screaming in the background, and we just would be saying, well, that was cool.
Yeah.
Whereas,
oh, fuck, did you see that guy's face get blown off?
Even Brain Scan, for what it does, had a lot to make fun of and goof on. So, yeah. Anyway, before we dive too deep into it, do you want to talk our normal shit?
Let's talk our normal shit. You got any dystopia talk?
Sort of. It's kind of good. I wanted to talk about the impending class war that seems to be
all right
kicking off, ever so gently.
I'm always here for that type of discussion.
I know you are, and I don't have much to add to it, but I am. It's nice to see some progress being made, at least in the hearts and minds of Americans at the moment. How do you feel about that? Do you agree?
Well, I'm not exactly certain what you're specifically referring to. I'm going to choose to interpret it as maybe the strikes in, related to that, or
no, I was talking about the class war
race war,
upon which I will be on the side of the bourgeoisie and the hero Australian who released that video talking about how the laborers need to suffer.
God. And that
a great man.
A great man. Also the originator of the millennials should stop buying avocado toast.
Is he really?
Yes, same dude.
He coined that phrase?
King of bad takes, apparently.
I'm gonna need a citation to prove that. I always thought that was like a Bill O'Reilly or something, some bullshit Fox News person who said that. But that's hilarious if he had two of the worst takes of all time.
Yeah, the absolute worst takes of the past decade. This guy is on them.
But yes, I was just kind of talking about, just kind of in general.
Yeah.
The UAW strike is huge and very cool, and the writers and actors strike is ongoing, despite what Bill Maher might wish.
Hey, he fucking caved.
I know. I think that was today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he caved. Poor Bill Maher. We love him. He's the best.
Just out there huffing fucking boomer farts with John Wenner.
Huffing fucking boomer farts. Be a good bumper sticker.
Or band name.
Or band name, yeah. Yeah, fuck him. But I don't know. Is there much else to say? I've been watching the UAW president. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But he's pretty inspiring to listen to. What I like most about him is that he's a very upper middle aged. He looks like my stepdad, kind of, but spouting some pretty based stuff,
Yeah.
And then like sticks some Bible imagery in there too to remind all these people what they pretend to believe in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the upcoming class war is good, and that the workers should win.
Okay,
All right, we done?
That's
the end of the
spicy,
show, right?
Spicy take.
Yeah, I know. Hot, unexpected take from me.
How do you feel about the police? Never mind. Don't answer that.
All dogs go to heaven. All dogs go to heaven. All cops are bastards.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's a scintillating conversation, but
And all cats are beautiful.
that's true. Yeah. Some of them are assholes, though.
Yeah, that's
just what you get. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
I certainly. Okay, actually, I've got a thing which is kind of a recommendo.
Okay. Is
okay.
it the class war?
I do recommend the class war.
Okay. So that's kind of a dual purpose this week.
Yeah, and it's the subject of it also has some class in it. Okay, so like a week or something ago, I started reading a book called 1632. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Okay. It's a book by a guy named Eric Flint. And the premise is that like a, 4 mile in circumference sphere of a town in West Virginia is, through completely inexplicable, although it is explained, means transported through time and space to 1632 central Germany.
Okay.
And kind of what would happen if, and it has a bunch of fun union stuff because it's a coal mining town with a strong union.
So I guess that begs the question. So it's a sphere. So I guess the coal is taken too.
Some of it. I mean, the thing that I want to talk, and the book's okay. The guy's not a great writer.
Ooh, burn. Fuck you, guy.
I think he died a couple of years ago. And I think he would probably admit it because most, if not all, of his other books are like co-written with people.
Okay.
The thing that I want to talk about is that this book is so fucking blatant. Okay, so it's in the introduction, before you get to the narrative or any characters at all, it explains the mechanism by which this transportation, this magic occurred. And it is literally fucking super powerful intergalactic aliens dicking around. And right. It's just some trash, basically.
More likely than a lot of sci-fi premises, honestly.
Yeah, and I just thought that was hilarious. There's he's I imagine it when something I'm reading about, the 30 Years War. What would it be like if if a modern town just got transported into the middle of it? How would people react? How do I come up with that? Who gives a shit? I'll just write some nonsense. And yeah. It's I love that it is so blatant, it doesn't even begin to give a shit. There's no riddle to be answered. It's just a thing that happened. Who cares?
Yeah. You always got to respect something that knows what it is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just I was reading, I was like, really? Is this the move? Okay, good on him. You don't need a complex, fuck making up a complex mythology and all these rational sounding explanations. It's effectively there's these super powerful magic space aliens who just did a thing and it happened. No big deal. Don't worry about it.
Now let's get to see what happens.
Yeah.
Cool stuff happen?
Yeah. There's some fun stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, guy has a reasonably nuanced understanding of the 30 Years War. It's got some kind of weird stuff. like how all the characters within the first 100 pages like start hooking up.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know. It's got some weird shit that you would expect. Came out in like 2000-ish.
A notoriously horny time.
Pretty horny. I also have another recommendo. If you have something, you can go first.
I was going to use that to segue into something else, and so as not to waste a good segue, I will say it, and then you can circle back to your second recommendo.
Okay, great.
Which is, you know what else is going to be in Central Germany?
What else is going to be in Central Germany?
Me. I'm going to be in Central Germany next week, so
Where are you?
we're going to have an episode next week, and we will tell you what that is at the end of this episode, and then we're going to take at least 2 weeks off. I think I'll be back probably 3 weeks off. I have one then, one. Yeah, I'll be back on the 10th, so maybe just 2. I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks off.
Look, we'll see, people. Remember, we gave up on our vaunted consistency.
Yeah,
like 2 shows ago.
Threw that in the garbage, pissed on it.
Yeah.
But we still try to get everything out, get it out as often as frequently as we can. And then after that, we should be done with absences for a while.
I mean, one would hope.
We should be pretty regular.
Yeah.
Until like the holidays or something. So
yeah, hopefully.
But that was my segue, just to drop that knowledge on people. Go ahead and give your second recommendo. I don't really have one.
Okay, my second recommendo is a little movie that I saw on Amazon Prime Video called Inside. It stars Willem Dafoe. Have you heard of this at all?
Keep going and I'll let you know.
Okay, came out earlier this year. Willem Dafoe is a thief who breaks into an extremely fancy, high-end modern apartment to steal some art and gets trapped.
No, it's not really ringing a bell.
Okay. That is the entire premise of the film, and it takes place entirely in the first 7 minutes. The rest of the film follows him in this empty apartment over a period of weeks, potentially months, just trapped in this empty fucking apartment and going mad and trying to escape. It's really fucking good.
Cool.
Yeah. It's not exactly action-packed, but it's, a really good fucking movie.
Well, I like Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, and if you want to, spend an hour and a half watching him, I don't know, run around and yell and break shit and try to escape a super modernist apartment, then this is your movie.
Okay. I might watch it.
Yeah. It is definitely worth it.
I guess I do have one quick recommendo before we move on. I've watched through the second season of After Party, which I like that show. It's goofy, good times.
Still haven't started the second season.
Maybe better than the first. I don't know. As good,
Really?
at least. I think so. I don't know.
Okay.
It's hokey to make it happen again.
Sure.
But once you put that aside and just who fucking cares? It's fun.
Well, come on. The entire world is happy to see Only Murders in the Building back. So,
exactly. Yeah. It's just suspended. This is an unrecommendo. I saw a TikTok today of a guy who was complaining about the new Baldur's Gate game because he said, "Now I've only like 30 minutes in and met one companion," but he was talking about the way the voice actors talk and how nobody talks like that. It's so like hammy, and he says the number one goal of acting and writing is to convince the viewer that what they're seeing is reality, is real, and in a perfect storm it could be indecipherable from reality. And I'm like, who the fuck thinks that?
That's what?
Have you not heard of musical theater, cartoons, like all this? Like
that's utterly mystifying.
I wanted to like angrily comment on his video, but like I'm above that, so I didn't. But it was a pretty well seen TikTok from a guy I've seen before, and that was batshit. I was thinking of shows like What We Do in the Shadows. Like they don't. the opposite of what. Anyway,
that is just an utterly wild position to take. I cannot imagine the kind of media that this guy consumes if he thinks that that is peak of cool things to watch.
and he's
Like,
not
why
wrong.
would you
that,
go anywhere near a video game?
Yeah, I mean, you have like video games and animation in general can't convey emotions through facial acting like real people can, so they have to really have intense speech. That's how all voice actors do it. Um, if they talked like normal people talked, it would be far less interesting. And also, like, there's things called artistic choices that people do to differ things from reality, and that's fine. Baldur's Gate does that. Yeah, it's a little hammy, it's a little theatrical, and it's also the most popular video game of the year. So clearly, people disagree with you, sir. Anyway, it just annoyed me, and I watched it an hour ago, so I mentioned it.
So this guy's end goal is to get to a world where the squid-headed monsters are indistinguishable from reality.
Yeah, exactly. I think he wants everything to be The Wire.
He wants
maybe
to fuck a bear.
I did a few videos later see the fuck a bear scene in humorous format. But yeah, I think he wants everything to be The Wire, which
a show
even
that
The
is
Wire
in no way stylized in its dialogue or anything.
Like, its dialogue is real, but I mean, listen to how McNulty and the Bunk talk. That's not. Yeah, that's stylized. Everything's stylized. This fucking guy. This fucking guy.
Sounds like a fucking guy to me.
I should find the video and send it to you just so you can be annoyed as well. He just sounds so smug when he says it too.
Yeah, I would almost certainly be very annoyed.
Yeah, and I love annoying you.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Speaking of annoyance, let's talk about. Wait, that's not a good segue. Let's just talk about Dredd and not speak of annoyance.
That sounds good.
We're going to keep this bad boy to a tight 90.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to cut in Anthrax's I Am the Law here?
Oh, that'd be a good idea. I probably won't remember, but
okay.
Why don't you just sing it?
I am the law.
That's pretty good.
I honestly don't remember. It's been
that was indistinguishable.
I heard it. Yeah.
It's indistinguishable from the studio recording.
Yeah, it's also indistinguishable from reality for all our listeners. So we are achieving our goals and the goal of all art.
It's the goal of all acting and writing. Oh my God, what a dumb thing to say. And he just kept doubling down, dude. There's like all kinds of comments being like, I don't think that's the goal of acting and writing. And he just keeps doubling down like everyone on the internet does.
I think maybe you're the dumbest person I've ever heard say anything ever.
Oh man, no, I'm never going to find it again. That's the problem with TikTok. It's gone forever, and I want to show it to you so you can be annoyed, but oh well.
Oh, fucking well. Okay, so Dredd, 2012, starring Carl Urban, Olivia Thirlby, Lena Headey, Donald Gleason, and other.
Oh, that is Donald Gleason, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't put that. He's so weird looking in the movie. I didn't.
He really is.
Put it together.
As I was watching it, I was wondering, is this when I first saw him in anything?
Yeah,
it might be. Like, I didn't look because I don't do research for this show.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd like to recommend the 400-page nonfiction book about Judge Dredd that I read.
Yeah. Can you remember the title?
I absolutely do. It is I Am the Law. How Judge Dredd Predicted Our Future by Michael Molker, Molcher.
I've not read this, by the way, so I will play the part of the audience who has not read this.
Yes. It is a very good book, broken into, I don't know, I think it's probably 12 odd chapters, looking at specific Judge Dredd, the comics storylines, and how they relate to mostly modern policing and various aspects of modern policing. And it's like all footnoted. I mean, I honestly don't know. This very easily could have started as the dude's like doctoral dissertation. I mean, it's serious, smart work.
Okay.
Sounds riveting. It's really fucking good. I mean, it's a lot of British, like it's a more British perspective than we usually get, because Judge Dredd is super fucking British. So there are different aspects to like, and oh god, reading through this book was fucking upsetting because I realized after a certain point, as you know, he's in some of the chapters, obviously, police brutality, murders, and stuff like that come up a bunch. And I realized I'm losing track of, wait, which was the guy in Baltimore who got taken for the rough ride and died, compared to which was the name of the guy in New York who got fucking smothered to death for
Choked out for
Lucy's.
cigarettes. Yeah.
And like, there have just been so many, I have trouble keeping track. It's not good.
It's really depressing that, you feel like you should know all these names, and it's a lot of work to remember them all and you know, correspond them with the event. That's super sad.
Yeah, it's pretty upsetting.
And I kept thinking about that when watching, not that specifically, but just, you know, just the culture while watching Dredd, which is undeniably awesome.
It is absolutely undeniably awesome.
And watching him kill those bad people makes you feel good in your heart.
Yep.
But that's also what they want you to feel.
Yes. As I mentioned on Twitter, one of our listeners / followers said, I can't remember, basically, I remember the movie being good, but it's like too much.
Yeah.
I'm sure you understand. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. And that is the central tension of fucking Judge Dredd.
It is. It's kind of hard. Like, it's kind of hard to think about how to approach it. It's definitely a movie that if it was made, I mean, goddamn, 2011 isn't that long ago. At least it doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah.
But it's on this, as far as this topic goes, it's a million years ago.
Yeah, it certainly is. I don't know. We can get into kind of how the movie came to be and stuff.
You have those facts?
I have some facts, yes.
I mean, if it starts going long, we don't necessarily have to do the recap. I mean, the recap is Dredd and his new recruit are stuck in a building and have to get out and kill a mob boss. Basically, it's
pretty much.
It's a wonderfully simplistic story. Like, the simplicity of the story is what makes it so good.
Yeah, it's, I mean, fucking, like, incredibly simple story, some very cool special effects.
Yeah, and the slow-mo effects are really good.
Some really, really solid fucking performances, and you basically don't need a script. I mean,
right.
Like, this movie could be, in terms of, like, dialogue, this movie could be about silent, and you'd get every bit of what it's going for just fine.
Yeah. God, it would be fun if they made a silent version of Dredd.
Like the black and white version of Giant Mnemonic?
Yeah. I think it might be compelling, actually.
Honestly, yeah. If it would be interesting to watch, like, just a sound effects only version, or just music, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, that's another good The Cure's Dredd song from the soundtrack of the 1995 Sylvester Stallone film,
which we'll get to.
We will.
We'll give it a little break before we go back there, but we got to cover that.
Yeah, it's not a good movie.
No.
But
I kind of wanted to do it first. That's probably the only thing that gave me pause about doing this now, but there's no reason we have to do them in order. They're not sequels, they're separate films. So.
Certainly they are not. So anyway, the basic setup, if you're unfamiliar with Judge Dredd, is that Judge Dredd is the law. He is a judge, also jury and executioner and policeman in the future, like 2100 is
a bad, nasty future
when Judge Dredd starts in Mega City 1, which is the entire eastern seaboard of the U.S. And He is a brutal authoritarian fascist, who,
But one of the good ones.
you know,
Yeah. I've never read the comic book, so I don't have any of that.
Yeah, I have not read very much Judge Dredd. It's, well, I imagine it's less so now, but it was relatively difficult to get a hold of it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a handful of kind of the more famous storylines,
Mm-hmm.
but I am far from an expert on, Judge Dredd proper, which has been running for fucking, 45 years at this point.
Wow. That's as long as I've been running.
Yeah. Shadow running.
Yes.
Judge Dredd would take a dim view of Shadowrunners.
No, he would not be a fan.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It is funny. Like, not many of our cyberpunk stories are going to be told from the perspective of the cops.
Yeah.
This might be, well, I take that back, because fucking the movies of the 80s and 90s loved making cops the heroes. But this is pretty, I mean, other than the fact that there's not, I mean, there are some body modifications that it's not really talked about, but they exist. So this is pretty standard, traditional cyberpunk as envisioned when you think cyberpunk, right?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. It's got fucking, future city arcologies.
Yeah.
It's got all the fun dystopia aspects of cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's got, at least this movie has hacking, and Donald Gleason seems to have some type of eye implant, at least.
Yeah.
They don't really go into it, but
they're pretty cool looking when we get the close-ups. Cool. Yeah.
He's a weird looking dude.
Yeah.
It's a dirty fucking movie, by the way.
Oh, it is.
I could not get over how just fucking grody it was.
Yeah, that's the future, baby.
Yeah, it is.
That is Mega City 1. So yeah, the judges are they are the army and also the police, and they, at least theoretically, all have encyclopedic knowledge of the law and enforce it brutally. And there is a lot of law.
Yeah, they just simplified the system. Instead of, someone who arrests and then a court who tries, they do it all on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's efficient.
And in the comic books, and to some extent in this movie, it doesn't take the opportunities it has to get into it. The comics are definitely historically intended as satire.
Are
this
they?
This is and it runs into they were originally based on John Wagner, the writer, originally was like, what if I made just a parody, completely over the top version of Dirty Harry?
Right, which is a good comparison.
Yeah. And
which Dirty Harry was a parody over the top version of the cop movies at the time.
Yeah. It's always been satire. There have been some times where who the fuck knows. But for the most part, its creative intent was satire, people getting shot for littering, that type of crimes.
Yeah, I mean, it gets close.
Yeah, and it's parodying the calls for law and order. One of them, they do cool no-knock warrants. This was one of the chapters in I Am the Law.
Oh, yeah.
Called Crime Swoops, where they just basically bust into somebody's apartment in the middle of the night and search them, search everything and try to find crime without any, it's just
any
sort of
probable
random
cause.
number. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
you're going to find
random apartment.
You're going to find a lot of crime that day.
Yeah.
It's like stop and frisk for apartments.
Yeah, pretty much. In one of them, a guy is sent to the ISO cubes for not having a license for his goldfish.
Wow.
So
that does sound satirical.
Yeah, it's.
I don't feel like the movie was playing it satirically.
No, and that's kind of, I don't know. Okay, so everybody in the movie, like, the thing that makes this movie not particularly satire-y, other than, Jesus Christ, Carl Urban looks fucking ridiculous. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, is the fact that everybody in the movie is bad. Like, everybody who he ends up shooting, is part of this gang, basically.
Right. The only one person that they kind of hint might have a life outside of crime was the dude who they later meet his wife who has a
Yeah.
baby. Like that's the only hint that there's a cost to this, and it's really only used to help our second protagonist, forgot the character name, but
Judge Anderson.
Yeah, Judge Anderson. That's right, Mrs. Anderson.
Ms. She's not married.
Ms. Sorry, my bad. It's really only made to make her feel guilty.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're trying to use her as like the voice of reason. In the end, she's like, I don't want to be a judge, but then they're like, well, she's going to be anyway. So
yeah. It's more explicable if. Okay, so Alex Garland was the screenwriter of this film. He also made such movies as Annihilation and Ex Machina.
Definitely be covering one of those at some point.
Yeah, and the television show Devs, and wrote like 28 Days Later and stuff like that. Pretty
good pedigree.
Yeah, pretty in-demand screenwriter. And his plans for this and what got optioned were a trilogy of Dredd movies, with this being the first one, which very, very loosely, I don't know, it's not really, as far as I'm aware, based on any specific Dredd storylines, comics, to sort of introduce the character. And then the second movie, I think, was going to be this storyline. I cannot remember what it was called, but one of the judges, one of the internal affairs equivalents to the judges, goes kind of mad with power, ends up basically appointing himself the ruler of Mega City 1, and starts doing, throwing all these laws out that just like don't make any sense. And one of the new laws is that everybody has to stand if I go to my window in my office and stuff like that. Like everybody on the street and stuff like that. So I think that movie might have done a better job of like being able to get into the satire aspects of, where this one was more along the lines of, hey, we want to make a cool action movie, and kind of introduce the character and the concept.
Right. I do like we mentioned that it does feel like part of them wanted to touch on it, especially with some of Anderson's stuff.
Yeah.
Like even down to her not wanting to wear a helmet because it interferes with her psychic abilities, but it also sets her apart from the other judges.
Yeah.
But they never really leaned into it at all.
Yeah, that's very, I don't know, and that's, I would say, the closest thing to a problem with this movie. I mean, it has other issues, but
yeah, that's a big problem. I don't know, socially, like it's a big problem on a larger scale. But as far as a movie goes,
yeah, I mean,
it's a pretty tight, good little movie.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the thing I thought of the other day after I watched the movie was, number one, Lena Headey, step on my neck.
Sure.
Number two, like this movie really, this encapsulates, I think, I think it was maybe Truffaut said that it's almost impossible to make an anti-war war movie because just by putting war on the screen, it is inherently exciting. Like it's, it's got some inherent coolness to it for various reasons, many of which are toxic, but that's the world we live in. And I think
like Full Metal Jacket is showing the horrors of war, but it's also like, I mean, they look cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like this movie is that. Like, it's impossible to make a satire about Judge Dredd going, climbing 200 stories of a giant apartment building and slaughtering everybody, because that's just inherently cool. Like, it's inherently cinematic.
Yeah.
You know
what else is cool?
What's that?
Telling the homeless guy at the bottom to get out of there or he's going to throw you in jail.
Yeah.
I realize that's probably hearkening back to the satire of the comics.
Yeah.
But it really made Dredd look like a fucking asshole.
Yeah. Homeless junkie will debase self for credits. I wrote down the sign.
Yeah. It was that was probably funnier in 2011 than it is now, considering that shit is legit, like literally happening all the time, all over the place in America.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not great.
It's not great. It's in fact bad.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it is no good.
If we do not like it.
It's
not going to get the HTLL endorsement, that's for sure.
We, as the podcast, High Tech Low Life, say, no, that's bad.
Leave the houseless alone, for the love of God.
We will wag our fingers at the police.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Actually, I'm not going to be wagging anything at the police. I'm going to keep my hands where they can see them. Fingers spread.
Yes, probably smart.
Okay. So, where does that leave us? Do you have more to say on the subject?
I mean, well, number one, just a little background production info. The credited director is a guy named Pete Travis.
Two first names.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. Nope. He has directed very little else that I have heard of. A lot of TV programs and stuff like that. And rumors have swirled for years that, in fact, because of some fuckery, Alex Garland was the actual director of this movie, so it should be counted as his first film, according to Carl Urban, who seems like he would know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would think he was on set a lot, probably.
Yeah, seems likely. I mean, and here's the thing with the Dredd helmet. It's not like the Mandalorian mask where Pedro Pascal can show up for like a week.
Right.
A season and get out of there.
Although props to him for leaving it on the whole time.
Yeah. Apparently that was one of his sticking points. He is not going to take the fucking helmet off because at this point, 45 years, Dredd has never taken the helmet off in the comics. So
it did make certain scenes confusing, like when the bad judges show up. Some of those were hard to follow.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see how that would be the case. But at the same time, that's part of the judges as a thing. They are a mass.
I know. Yeah, it's like real cops.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So good times. All right. Yeah. I don't know. What do you want to talk about with this movie?
I do. If you have a little familiarity with the comic books, is there like the Shadowrun fan in me was intrigued by the mutant aspect of it a little bit?
Yes.
And how morally convenient is it for Judge Dredd to be able to kill everybody, and he just happens to have somebody with him who can tell when people are telling the truth and what they're thinking, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, that's convenient, but I mean, Dredd would kill him anyway.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Like the dude they carry around for first half of the movie,
Wood Harris,
who is great, by the way.
Yeah, he's really. I had forgotten that he was like one of the main bad guys.
Speaking of The Wire earlier,
yeah.
How I just love he's like the first half of the movie he doesn't speak. He's just dragged around and he does. It's weird to say that's was a compelling performance for me. But you would think in a lot of movies he'd be talking trash or whatever, and he does when he gets, but he picks his moment to talk trash when he knows it's going to really work. I don't know. I liked the way that character was done. He seemed very professional.
Yeah,
gangster.
I absolutely agree, and yeah, I was like I said, I was surprised. Like, oh shit, I forgot Wood Harris was the hostage in this.
Yeah,
And then yeah, I was very impressed by his performance.
because one might say it's as difficult to act and not say anything than it is to act and say something. I don't know. I wonder
Yes.
what fucking TikTok dude would think about actors who don't say anything.
Oh fuck, that's not entertainment, man.
It's not realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, the psychic shit is
Yeah. Judge Anderson is a psychic,
Okay.
in the comics, and the mutant aspect. Yeah, there are a lot of mutants, especially out in the very beginning of the movie. It does this neat looking helicopter flyover like into Mega City 1,
Mhm.
and you see this blasted wasteland outside the city, and that's in the comics that's called the Cursed Earth.
Okay. It's a little dramatic, but
Because,
sure.
well, it's a giant irradiated wasteland between the handful of mega cities that still exist on the North American continent.
Right.
And it's full of weird fucking mutants and cults and, all sorts of crazy shit.
Great place for a RPG setting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it'd be a pretty good one. In fact, one of the classic Judge Dredd comics storylines is called The Cursed Earth, where he has to deliver I think it's a vaccine or something to Mega City 2, which is on the West Coast, and goes out to cross the Cursed Earth.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And Judge Anderson mentions that she grew up right by the wall. So, right on the outskirts of this horribly irradiated wasteland.
Sure. Close enough to get a little bit of that sweet, sweet radiation.
Yeah, just a little dose. And there are a lot more and much more obvious mutants in the comics because, it doesn't cost more to draw mutants than it does to hire people to dress up as them with makeup and shit.
Right. And in fact, it's said at one point you're put together pretty well for a mutant. Most of them have 3 arms or something like that.
Yeah. 3 arms or no arms.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I do think it's, in the context of the movie, it's morally convenient to have somebody constantly know the truth all the time.
Oh, sure.
But
yeah.
This movie was not trying to make any political statements.
Yeah. Maybe the second one would have.
Maybe it would have.
But who knows? So anyway, the whole plot of this movie is that there's this cool new drug on the street. It's called slow-mo. When you take it, everything goes at like 1/10 speed.
Yeah.
And things look super fucking cool. So Dredd and his trainee Anderson get called to
who is a psychic and also didn't do so great on the placement tests, apparently.
Yes, she got 3 points under passing.
Right, which Dredd is quick to point out that's not passing.
Yeah, that is failing.
Yeah.
So they get called to a crime scene at the Peachtrees Tower, which is a 200-story apartment building with like 200,000 people in it or something. 75,000 people.
Yeah.
And this is where a handful, I think it's 3 dudes, were skinned and then tossed off of a balcony like 190 stories up, dosed with this slow-mo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty horrific.
Yeah.
A lot of horrific shit in this movie. Like, the bad guys are very bad.
Yeah, they're like... And yeah, that's the part that's convenient for this movie.
Yeah.
It's really easy to be on fucking Dredd's side when they're just fucking opening up with, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through the movie, they're opening up with miniguns and just evaporating.
Yeah, an entire apartment block.
Yeah. I mean, and skinning people and tossing them off of balconies.
Right.
It's easy to be against them.
Yeah, nobody likes it, even if it's Lena Headey.
Yeah.
Who usually I will be on her side no matter what.
Oh, Dredd ought to mind his own business.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his business is the law. And
Ajab. All judges.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I mean, hey, we do find out that as bastardly as Dredd is, there are worse judges out there.
Yeah, we do find that out.
Yeah.
One could use that to show that the system is flawed, and then therefore Dredd is not necessarily in the right, but they never really do.
Yeah.
They do it they point at our current system, which is perfect and
those guys are
and
bad
wonderful.
apples. Don't worry about it.
But there are bad apples. It's just life.
Yeah, it's just how it is. Okay, so they go to this apartment block. They talk to the medical guy, and he informs them that the Mama clan owns this block, the entire thing. And Mama is Lena Headey. And she's the one who made the guys get tossed off the balcony. Cool.
Yeah. Her introduction is pretty cool too. She's in the bath, taking slow-mo, watching the sparkly bubble water.
Yeah, she splashes her hand and it looks like diamonds flying through the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a fun drug for a while, but I don't know that I'd want to do it every day.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs a hobby.
Plus, it's a filthy, destitute life these people are living in these apartment blocks.
Yeah, that's something from the comics that isn't really brought up in the movie. At various times through the comics, I learned this reading the book. The employment rate has varied between 13 and 0.05% in Mega City 1. So effectively, nobody's got jobs.
Right.
And that was the employment rate, not the unemployment rate.
Yeah.
Robots do most of the jobs.
Dream.
Yeah. Yeah, except it's a nightmare.
Which will be our reality when robots take over all the jobs instead of what should be robots saving us from toil.
Yeah.
Because, and I feel like our buddy over there in Australia who made an excellent point last week about how, laborers need to suffer more.
Yeah.
He needs more money.
He really, really does.
He doesn't have enough. And robots are going to help him get there.
They certainly fucking will. Let's see. So the medical guy basically tells him where to
stick it.
Well, stick it. If by stick it you mean stick their guns to get the guys who threw the guys off the balcony, then yes, they go to level 39.
I love that this entire fucking block has one dude in a little room for their health care.
Yeah, the med center.
Yeah.
For 75,000 people.
Yeah, it's pretty realistic.
Yeah.
Therefore, perfect writing.
Correct. It is exactly how reality is. So they go to the drug den on level 39. We see, some stuff going on in there. It's just a bunch of kids getting high on fucking slow-mo. And then shit jumps off and, quote from my notes, the effects are so fucking cool.
Oh.
Because that's when we get into the super slow-mo combat shit. And Dredd blows the door open and you see the rim lock and the screw holding the rim lock go flying across frame.
Yeah. Lots of slow-mo shots of people getting shot in the face.
Yeah.
Bullet wounds and exit wounds.
Yeah. It's, again, extremely cool. And that's not a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's good as far as you're watching a movie and want to be entertained.
Yeah.
It's bad in that we shouldn't enjoy this.
Yeah. it's kind of sickening, because this is like Dredd is the worst. Like,
He's the bad guy in current reality.
He's the worst of all possible police. He has near absolute power. He is completely unbending and unsympathetic. Like, one thing that I feel that our show does pretty good at, especially like that episode a few weeks ago with Mike.
Wait, let me guess.
What's that?
Is it communicating our thoughts in a timely manner?
No, sadly it's not.
Okay, I give up then.
It is context.
Oh, okay.
Dredd has, like, context is not even a word that Dredd has ever heard of.
No, if what he's seeing is illegal, that person gets shot.
Yeah.
Or sent to the cubes, which sounds pretty miserable.
Yeah, it's no good. So, I mean, he is absolutely the fucking enemy, but it's really cool looking at him doing this stuff.
Yeah, and these people are all bad. We know this for a fact.
Yeah, these people are all bad. So yeah, that's the movie. I mean, right there, that's the central tension of the film.
It is, but that wasn't intentionally the central tension of the film.
No, the plot of the movie is, after this, they capture some people. The Donald Gleason tells Mama that
Donald Gleason is like the building rigger.
Yeah.
Or rather, he takes it over from some security guards who were literally sleeping on the job, and then he in Shadowrun terms, he's a building rigger basically who controls the building from a central hub.
Yeah, he is hacking in less specific terminology.
Great character.
Oh yeah, he's creepy as shit looking.
Once again, he would have been killed if not for the psychic being there reading his mind.
Yep.
And telling Dredd that he's a victim, not a criminal. Dredd would have killed him, and this isn't really brought up or examined any further than that.
No, why would it be?
Yeah,
Dredd is the law,
right?
I mean, he can be both a victim and a criminal, and
it's weird because all this is true, but it feels like the filmmakers were hinting that like this outing softened him a little bit because he was such a stickler for his rules and stuff.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Anderson points out that she failed the test. She lost her service weapon. She wasn't going to become a judge. And then at the end, he ends up passing her, which is showing like, oh, maybe Dredd's capable of nuance and context.
Yeah. I mean, it took him 10 years to get to anything resembling that point in the comics, I think.
Really?
And even then, he's not like into it.
Yeah, well, he's not really that into it in this, and maybe it would have been explored in the future editions of the movie.
Yeah. So we capture Wood Harris in this fucking drug den after blowing everybody else away. Donald Gleason locks the fucking building down just as they're leaving.
Right.
And crushing the homeless junkie who will debase it himself for credits.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Yeah, under a giant fucking, like, shield door thing.
Yeah.
And cuts off communications with the city at large. So,
for like the next 30 minutes, it's them dragging... what's his name? Wood?
Yeah, Wood Harris.
Wood Harris. Through these levels trying to basically get communication with what's called the Hall of Justice. That's on the nose.
Yeah. I mean, again, satire.
Yeah.
We're trying to lay everything on real thick here. They're trying to communicate with the Hall of Justice. They're trapped in the building. Dredd decides that, well, at one point, I think it's a little later, but Dredd asks Anderson, what do you think we should do, trainee? And she basically says, well, we can set ourselves up and defend ourselves here until backup from the Hall of Justice arrives somehow. We can just try to hide and avoid anything. and those seem to be our options. And Dredd's like, you missed the third option. We can attack.
Yeah, of course.
So there we go.
Nothing really to add. That's pretty much Dredd in a nutshell.
Yeah, it really is. Once they kill, I think at one point, Donald Gleason relays to Mama that the judges have killed more than 30 people. They're now on level 76. And then he locks them down to just that one level. And they're like, Mama sets up like 6 fucking giant miniguns on the opposite side of the level and just vaporizes it.
This even in the context of this very excessive movie, this scene felt excessive.
Yeah, very like, and it goes on for so long, and that's
So
not
long.
just this. It's not just the slow mo.
No, and Dredd doesn't get hit.
No, plenty of other people do though.
Lots of people die.
Yeah, tons and tons of people die.
But eventually they escape out onto a extremely dangerous,
a very cool skate park.
side of the building skate park, because
the miniguns were powerful enough that they blasted through the exterior walls.
Yeah.
And then they're able to make contact with the Hall of Justice,
but they can't stay there.
No,
because they would have nowhere to go if they were found there, which is true.
Yeah,
it feels like a safe haven in the moment, but it's not.
Yeah, it's momentary. So more shit happens. Some judges show up outside and try to get in.
Yeah, Mama says, he says, what should we do? She says, call 911.
Yeah. So...
Oh, wait, are you talking about the actual...
I was talking about the actual ones, but that's like, 4 minutes in the future. Doesn't matter.
It all bleeds together. Yeah. One giant gunfight.
So, yeah, some judges show up outside and Donald Gleason and try to get into the building, and Donald Gleason is like, no, we were running a scheduled block war drill. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
There's a fire on 36, and they look
we're
up
having some trouble.
See the smoke from the minigun destruction.
Yeah. So the judges are like, okay, I guess we hang out until we can get in.
And they were called as backup, and then they just stand there.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so this is the point at which I think, they interrogate Wood Harris more in depth. Anderson gets in his mind.
I liked this scene. This was very, very fun. Fucking with him, kind of gross. He was kind of a perverted dude, but she had the upper hand at all times.
Yeah. Anderson is fairly cool.
She rules.
Yeah. And find out that up on the high floors, this is the city's and this is the factory where the city's entire supply of slow-mo comes from.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. So it becomes even more important for Dredd to kill every human he sees.
They're evil drug dealers.
Yeah.
You kill drug dealers.
You kill drug dealers.
I don't remember what that's from.
Desperado?
Maybe. I don't know.
Huh. Yeah, that must be Desperado.
Yeah, that was probably Salma Hayek. You're doing a spot-on impersonation of.
Yeah. I think we both do a very good Salma Hayek. Okay, so, they interrogate Wood, find out it's the slow-mo factory for the whole city, and then we got to kill everybody else. Oh, and also, one of the, I guess, flaws from a screenwriting perspective of the movie pops up here. All throughout the whole thing, we've seen this guy who's the second in command to Mama. I believe his character name was Caleb.
That's right.
Is almost entirely non-existent as a character, but he gets a weird amount of screen time.
Agreed. Thought it was weird the whole time.
And then he is unceremoniously chucked off the balcony out of the smoke by Dredd.
Yeah, felt like he was going to be a mini boss or something leading up to Mama, but not even a challenge. Instead, they bring in the other cops as a mini boss.
Yes. Yeah, and that happens in like 4 minutes. So then Dredd and Anderson get attacked by a couple of fucking 12-year-olds, surprisingly.
Oh yeah, that's when things go wrong.
Yeah, and Wood Harris breaks free, gets Anderson's gun, and takes her hostage. And
Not a
gets her
good
into the
psychic if she
elevator.
didn't see that coming.
I think she was distracted by the by the 12-year-olds.
The youths.
Yeah, because she doesn't have like great precognition.
True. She's in Stars Without Numbers terms, she's more of a telepath than a precog.
Yeah, and she's been, I'm sure he's been thinking about breaking free literally the whole fucking time. So, what change would that be?
Exactly, yeah.
So she gets taken up to floor 200, where they're about to be horrible at her. And then Mama is like, no, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to play this smart. No torture, no rape, none of that stuff.
They just died in a drug bust gone wrong.
Yeah, gonna take her back down to 39, shoot her, and then I don't remember what the strategy for Dredd is, but yeah, it'll be a couple of judges. Drug bust went wrong, no big deal.
Which is good because I'm really tired of seeing women brutalized on screen.
Yeah, I know. I didn't remember that happening. But when I got to that scene,
they hint at it in like
really
flashbacks from Kay's mind.
Yeah.
And that's really that's plenty.
Mm-hmm.
Flashbacks, whatever, flashes.
Yeah, I was worried about that when like the elevator opened and they're fucking dragging her down a hall surrounded by a bunch of dudes. And
that was like the go-to way back then to say these are bad people. They like to rape. And pretty much only Game of Thrones carried it into the modern era, and pretty much everybody else decided we don't need to re-traumatize our viewers anymore, considering how fucking common that shit is.
And Game of Thrones. Lena Headey. Raped.
Oh, good fucking pull, I guess.
Yeah. So
she's kind of like the Dredd of Game of Thrones. No.
Yeah, sort of.
She does blow up a church.
That's true.
Spoiler alert for Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. You're not missing anything.
If you get that far, you don't really, nothing else matters at that point.
Yeah, who gives a shit? So at this point, Dredd takes the PA and basically says, you're all going to die. Effectively. And
once again, it feels good hearing him tell these people that they're going to pay for what they've done is really cathartic and nice.
Yeah. The danger of satire.
It just shows the enticingness of fascism. And it really shows you how easy it is to fall for it, especially if you're on the side of the fascists, if you have similar goals to them.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you just don't think about it.
Yeah. Or you just want to go about your normal life and not be bothered, which is how it happens.
Yeah.
Is happening.
It couldn't happen here.
Never.
It can't happen here. I can't remember the name of the movie. So Mama sends some guys down to where the PA was hacked because Donald Gleason told her where it was, and Dredd burns them alive.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I did want to quickly, maybe this is a good spot to quickly talk about the tech of Dredd because that's kind of a part of cyberpunk stuff. Yes. His gun is very cool, voice activated. As we find out later, also
his gun is called a lawgiver.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
There's some serious 40K vibes in Dredd as well, I think.
I think that's actually... I would say that Warhammer 40K took kind of a lot of inspiration from Dredd.
I would not be surprised. I don't know, like you said, if Dredd's been around since the 70s, because 40K came around in the 70s or 80s. But yeah, definitely some. I mean, just the outfits. Like, yeah, there's some. If not, they were taking inspiration from the same places.
Yeah.
But anyway, the gun is very cool. It's also, well, as we find out later, well, not too much later, really, when Kay goes to shoot the cop that with her own gun, I guess because he thinks that's a poetic way to kill her.
Yeah.
And it does not work, and in fact blows his hand off.
Yeah.
It's a cool piece of tech. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the tech in this movie is in their guns.
Yeah. I mean, Dredd has the wristlet thing as well.
Yeah, which is a pretty neat little.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a better version of the fucking Dick Tracy watch video phone thingamajig.
Yeah, or the Fallout Pit Boy.
Sure.
The Pit Boy's big and chunky. This is like nice and concave, rounded to his wrist.
Yeah. So it's at this point that Mama says, we're going to call 911. And a new squad of judges shows up at the front door of Peachtree's. The door opens up immediately for them. The other two judges are still standing around.
And they are relieved.
Yes. The new judges immediately execute the medical guy.
Yeah, that was sad because he was kind of built up as a character and it's just immediately killed.
Yeah, he's just fucking executed. And then they get their orders, whatever, from Mama, and they're getting paid 1 million fucking credits to deal with the problem.
Yes.
So they go up to 200. Dredd is running out of ammo and is getting stalked by 3 other judges. I think he's on like floor 190 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And kills one in effectively hand-to-hand.
That was one where I got a little confused watching that fight.
Yeah, I can see that.
I also think these judges, and I don't know why every time they met with one of our hero judges, they had to stop and have a conversation instead of just being like, hello, blam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They always gave the good guys time to figure things out.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dredd runs into one, kills him hand-to-hand, then he ends up in this running firefight in the drug factory.
I really like that firefight. That was a cool one.
Oh, yeah, it was very
because,
cool.
Like, the lead bad cop was doing a monologue the whole time, and there might be something good to pull from that for the beginning of this episode. Or maybe I'll just pick I Am the Law, go the easy route.
Yeah, that would be the easy way.
But he was doing, there was some good bad guy monologuing going on there.
Yeah, and
even if it's a bad guy who didn't earn it because he's just been introduced 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and we get the implication that Dredd is kind of famous for being hardcore.
Yeah.
And he only cares about the law.
He kind of wants to fuck the law.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, baby.
It's at this point that Kay is dicking around with Anderson's stuff and then blows his fucking hand off.
Yeah.
Because she harasses him into trying to shoot her. But the DNA scan on her lawgiver says no. She busts out. There are cool sci-fi caulk guns being used in the factory.
Saw that, yeah. Definitely caulking guns.
Yeah.
Not cock guns.
No.
Caulk.
Caulking.
Caulk.
Yes.
When you're in the trades, you learn to really emphasize the L in caulk because,
caulking.
God damn it, you don't want to hear the joke again, and you're going to hear it every time.
And again. So she breaks out, steals a gun, starts murking motherfuckers. Dredd murks another one. They run. She saves him, basically, because he gets shot through a fucking wall. By
Dredd is not impervious.
By the main bad judge, because Dredd is out of ammo. And the guy is like, ha ha ha, fuck you. I win. And then Anderson,
Dredd does his wait. He's like, that's your final words, and then monologues for 45 seconds about how his final words are wait.
Yeah. And then he says, no, I was waiting for her to shoot you.
Yeah. And then we get to see a little more tech when Dredd patches himself up. He has this
Yeah.
neat little, basically a standard video game med kit, because he
Yeah,
pretty much acts normal afterwards.
Yeah, a glue and staple gun.
Yeah. Definitely doesn't act like he'd just been shot in the abdomen.
Yeah, that seemed like it'd be a pretty bad wound, but
Yeah.
Whatever.
Future tech.
Yeah, cool times. So then they go to the tech room, and Donald Gleason is just shrieking.
Yeah.
It's a pretty upsetting scene.
Yeah.
Because he is like, they burst into the fucking room and he just starts shrieking they are going to murder him.
Yeah.
Which they are.
They definitely would have, if not for psychicness.
Yeah, Anderson's psychicness lets her determine that Gleason was a victim. We saw a flashback scene at the beginning of Mama gouging out somebody's fucking eyes with her thumbs. And it turns out it was Donald Gleason, and that's how he got his cyber eyes, which we've been
literally every time he's done anything for her, she's been there threatening him. So.
Yeah, like running a knife up his torso, and it's no good.
She's mean.
Yeah,
bad lady.
She is a bad lady. We are not pro Mama.
No, but we are pro Lena Headey.
That is correct. She is my Sarah Connor.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I think she was a fucking great Sarah Connor.
Now, I'm not saying she's bad, but is she better than the OG?
I honestly think it's in the running. I mean, there were, I can't remember, maybe 2 seasons of Sarah Connor Chronicles?
Yeah, 2. Well, it's a conversation for our upcoming 9, 10, 15-hour binge. So we'll talk about it.
That is true. So anyway.
I told my wife about that idea, and she hates it.
I am not surprised. I think it's going to be a great idea. It's going to bring us back to the old days of recording like 4 Young American episodes in a row.
Yeah.
So Mama attaches a dead man switch to her wrist, which is synced to her heartbeat. So
so this is something that bothered me. Like, yeah, she's got the dead man switch. If her heartbeat goes off, the building blows up, basically. And then Dredd just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he really doesn't. I mean, like, okay, it could have been maybe a little more foreshadowed. Anderson gets shot.
Right.
So she's out of commission for the last little bit. But Dredd's basically got Mama in his big fucking meaty paws. And she says, you see this thing on my wrist that's synced to my heartbeat. There are enough explosives on this floor to bring down the whole fucking building. And Dredd's like, looks over the edge and is like, I don't know, 200 odd stories. I'll take the chance that it doesn't have that much range.
Yeah.
And chucks her.
Hell of a gamble there, Mr. Dredd.
To some extent, okay, communications through and around the building have been an issue through the entire film.
Yes.
However, I mean, I don't think it quite got enough foreshadowing for that.
Right. Also, like, what a weird dead man's trigger that if it just goes out of range, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It just continues to work. I don't know.
Dredd shoots her, doses her with slow-mo, and throws her off the 200th story balcony.
Yeah. R.I.P. Mama.
Yeah. And then we get a pretty cool sequence of her falling through space in slow-mo, and then she slams face down onto the camera, and the blood from her split head forms an X like on Dredd's helmet.
Oh, very, very poetic, artistic.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch the slow-mo guys on YouTube?
No.
They're like old school YouTubers. They have super insanely expensive slow motion cameras.
Okay.
And just film stuff in slow-mo, like 50 caliber bullets shooting ballistics gel, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Oh, okay.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
They don't need it. They've got millions and millions of subs. They're one of the original YouTubers, I think, but
yeah. All right.
Oh, well, I just thought I thought of that a lot because there's a lot of slow motion shit in this movie.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look them up.
They're
probably
British.
watch one video and then forget about it forever.
That's well, not the YouTube algorithm will never let you forget.
I really avoid the YouTube algorithm.
Sometimes I'm like, a video about gardening. This looks interesting. Because for some reason I'm specifically interested in this one gardening thing, and then all I get for weeks is gardening videos. It's like I'm not making my life be gardening now. I just wanted to watch one fucking video. Poker. I watched a guy play poker once, and now it's like, you really love poker? It's like, no, I watched one clip. Come on.
Yeah, I think I pretty much exclusively just click links to specific videos, and then if I'm not going to watch it right now, I add it to my
Your Quay.
watch later thing.
Yeah.
So then if I come back to it, I go immediately to my watch later Quay.
Yes.
And it just shows me videos that I've already put on there. So I don't really deal with the algorithm.
I actually sit and watch YouTube. I actually look at my suggested videos and watch stuff. I prefer it to television oftentimes.
Yeah, as you know, I'm resistant to algorithms.
Yeah.
So
you
anyway,
love Al Gore's rhythm. Sorry, that joke is bad. Kill me.
It's not great.
Put me to death. Judge Dredd, I deserve it.
Fair enough. That was a very Cody delivery.
Yes, I hated it.
I should
hated it as I was saying it.
I should watch Eon Flux. Put that down. Watch Eon Flux.
We will.
Okay, so yeah, that's the end of the movie. The block unlocks. Dredd and Anderson walk out. Her assessment ends. She hands Dredd her badge, but he tells the Chief Justice that she passed, so she's still a judge.
And Dredd can bend the rules.
Goes on to dread another day.
Yeah, and that, yeah. Credits roll to some cool rock music.
Yes.
You there?
I am.
My monitors just completely shut off.
Okay, well, I'm still here. So.
I think they went to sleep because I hadn't touched the mouse in a while.
Sure.
But thankfully, I did not lose everything else. That was close. Okay. I'm back.
All right.
So yes, that film, it is a mixed bag of emotions because, man, it's a fun watch and it's a good action movie, and you feel good when the bad guys get theirs, but then you start thinking about reality, and in reality, you don't know if they're bad guys.
Very fucking gross.
Even if they're drug dealers, they might not be bad guys.
Yeah.
And then it gets complicated, and then you feel bad for liking it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to go record a podcast about it, and you don't exactly know how to broach the subject given everything is so volatile these days and so many people are suffering, and it makes you it gives you a little mini existential crisis, or maybe this is a little too personal of a review.
Nope, I think you're absolutely right. I was able to separate myself from it a little bit since I was also reading a semi-scholarly book about how Dredd himself is bad.
Yeah.
So that helped. But yeah, it's problematic.
Would you say it's propaganda? I don't think that's what the creators.
No,
they weren't trying to make satire.
I definitely don't think it's propaganda.
Intentionally, anyway.
On the other hand, it's On the other hand, it's real hard to make a fucking war movie that doesn't glorify war.
Right.
I mean,
can you think of one that did? Maybe Hot Shots. Part 2.
War. It's fantastic.
I bring that up because literally 10 minutes before we recorded, my wife is watching Desperate Housewives for the millionth time. She goes through cycles,
Okay.
And it's just on. And that actor,
Miguel Ferrer.
Yes, Miguel Ferrer was he had a small recurring role, and I watched him, and I explained that I can only hear one line coming out of his mouth when I see him on screen, and it's that. And she didn't care. Not surprising.
Miguel Ferrer is one of my favorite actors for many things, but especially his part as Albert on Twin Peaks.
Well, you can skip his part in Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably true.
He's a mean art teacher.
Ooh. I mean, that does sound like something he'd do well at.
Yeah, he does well. Of course, he does well at everything acting because he delivers lines exactly like a normal person was and blurs the difference between what I'm watching in reality. And sometimes I think it's a window and I like yell at it. I'm like, get out of my house. Stop looking at me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Which means it's good art.
Yeah, that's how art works.
You think that dumbass on TikTok knows that some other dumbasses on a podcast have been talking about him?
Talking shit on him for 2 hours.
I don't even have a name. I don't remember who it is, but
like it fucking matters.
I hope he feels it. I hope there's like an itch or something that he can't scratch, that he just knows.
He just knows something's happening somewhere.
Okay, so let's rate this motherfucker. What do you say?
Okay, that sounds good.
This is going to be an interesting one because I don't know if we're going to take the societal implications of the storytelling into effect or not. But as far as the story of Dredd, I can't give it a high score. As far as like, I mean, maybe I can. I don't know.
I mean, there is not much story, but it is incredibly efficient for the story that it does have.
I mean, Trapped in a Skyscraper of Evil Bad Guys is like the plot of nearly every video game from at least from the 80s and 90s.
Bad dudes.
Bad dudes.
Can we save the president's wife? Only we can save the president's wife.
You think this podcast has referenced the video game Bad Dudes more than any other podcast?
Possibly.
I think this is only 2, but we're still in the running. We'll get it next week too. Just so story. You're right. It's a simple story, but it's told incredibly well. So I think I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I mean, it's got one like. The one kind of real speed bump is the weird Caleb character.
Yeah.
That it really seems like he should have been built up some or something.
Or just removed.
Or just not be there.
Why not give the K character that was a hostage the whole time, give him that relevance to her organization, you know?
Yeah.
It seemed like him and Caleb were kind of both at that level, but the Caleb guy wasn't needed. I agree.
Yeah. But that's really the only speed bump. Otherwise, it's like, hey, fucking second one, like minute 2, you know exactly what this goddamn movie is.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to it.
We didn't mention the really cool car chase at the beginning, which actually was a fun scene and put countless innocent lives at risk.
Also true. But those guys were breaking the law.
Right. And so anybody they break the law around deserves to die just by the fact that they're around somebody breaking the law.
Well, look, order has a price.
True.
And that is the deaths of innocent civilians.
All right, let's do influenza.
That's hard to say.
I think more than a little. Would you agree?
Yeah, okay. I thought you had more to your sentence. Yeah. I don't know. It's probably okay.
I don't know. Is art imitating life, or is life imitating art? It's hard to tell. But Judge Dredd as a property definitely has some pretty good influence. As far as this movie goes, I definitely hear people talking about how, as an action movie, it's like top tier, and I'm sure it's influential in that way. As a cyberpunk property, it's kind of anti a lot of the stuff that cyberpunk is trying to, at least the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a complex.
Yeah. It's like trying to unpick the movie from the character is like, cause the character, very fucking influential. The movie, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm guessing, but at the same time, I don't know.
I'm going to stick it at a 6.5.
I'll give you... I'll veer, I'm assuming, more towards just considering the movie than you, and I'll go with 5, because I'm guessing this has gotten picked up by a lot of cheap action movies.
Yeah. The next one, I think, is going to be pretty high ranking, and that is Prescience. Prescience.
10
And-
out of 10.
Yeah, unfortunately, sadly, horrifyingly, and badly.
Sadly, this film takes place tomorrow morning. I think I'm
Yeah.
seeing on the crawl.
I hate it so much. But even the
Yeah.
tech seems realistic in it, like voice
Yeah.
activated guns. Yeah, I see cops using those in a couple of years.
Yeah, sure.
Shooting incendiary. Of course, they're gonna have white phosphorus in their
Absolutely.
in their
They're going
sidearms.
to shoot white phosphorus rounds into criminals' mouths.
And yes, these super dense high-rise urban developments are going to be the only housing we can afford soon enough.
Yeah.
So, of course, we're all going to be crammed into them. Yeah, the prescience on this one is terrifying.
Yeah, it's no good. Don't like it.
But it gets the coveted 10.
Yes, it does get a 10 out of 10.
That's why our ratings have nothing to do with how good or how much we like something.
Yep.
They mean
Because
nothing and are
I
pointless.
hate every bit.
Style. Dredd is dirty, disgusting, and grody, but that is a style, and it's definitely got its own.
I'm gonna give this a 5 on style.
Really?
Yeah, I have a justification for why it is lower than it might seem. And this, I'm not just looking at the movie, I'm looking at Dredd as a character and stuff. There's not enough, because it's set 100 years in the future. All the cars and shit on the street in that car chase. The only thing even vaguely futuristic about it is the Lawmaster, which is Dredd's motorcycle.
Yeah.
Everything else is fucking Toyota minivans.
Yeah.
And similarly, there's not there's the stuff that Dredd has on him, but that's about the only sci-fi shit. And everything looks like it could be occurring today.
True. I don't think that's necessarily a dock for style, at least from my judgment of the thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I think I would actually give it an 8 for style. And my justification is that it has a very clear aesthetic that it's sticking to.
That's true.
The drug scenes are very stylized and very effective.
Oh, you got a good point there.
A lot of times when people try to show people getting high on films, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And inaccurate. This is very unique, and I feel like communicated almost perfectly how these characters are feeling. And everybody except for the cops was so fucking filthy, man. It felt like I said, it's not stylish, but it definitely is its own thing, right?
Yeah, okay. Your specific inclusion of the slow-mo scenes, I don't know. That's I don't know how much I want to stick that in style, but it is fucking cool. And I don't know if there's anything better than style to put that under. So
Yeah.
I will go ahead and, because you mentioned that, move it up to 7. Because that is really cool. Even just that fucking bathtub scene with Lena Headey, and she's just splashing. And you're like, wow, this is an extremely cool fucking drug.
Yeah. 7's probably better than 8. I'm going to stick with 8 just for my integrity's sake, but
Sure.
7 might be more appropriate for the reasons you said, because even the fight scenes are pretty boilerplate gunfights. It's not like an Equilibrium you would give high style points to.
Yeah.
Anyway, who fucking cares? It's a stupid podcast anyway. Nobody's listening.
That is true. Hey, we have at least one listener.
We got a bunch, and they're all wonderful.
Yeah.
Hand raisers, I don't fucking know, man. I loved watching this movie. It was a great movie to watch, and then I felt bad when
you feel dirty,
especially when he tells that homeless guy, he's like, "Well, I warned you. Come on, you're going to the cubes." It's like, fuck, the dude's miserable. Why are you gonna send him to jail? It's like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. So I guess I'll give it a 2.5 dead in the middle.
I was gonna go for a 3 simply because I cannot, it's tough.
I'll go 3 too.
It's tough to resist the allure of It is so cool looking. Like,
It's a strong
you know,
allure.
yeah.
It's a fun, violent, ultra violent, and it's acted so fucking well by everybody.
Yeah, it fucking Carl Urban does some really shockingly good work, only being able to see the lower like quarter of his face.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, he's fantastic.
yeah.
Man, what a difficult movie to watch.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I honestly I enjoyed the shit out of watching the movie. I have no idea how I feel about it.
Which is probably why it's smart to start with a plug for that book.
Yeah.
Just to give everybody some perspective, because I do not want to be praising movies like this in this day and age. I don't want them to be made anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want any more Dirty Harrys or Judge Dredds. I mean, I would like to see more in the Judge Dredd universe.
Yeah.
Because it seems pretty cyberpunk and cool.
It's pretty cyberpunk and cool. Yeah, just another recommendo. I Am the Law 2023. How Judge Dredd Predicted Our Future by Michael Molzer, published by Rebellion Publishing. Rebellion / Solaris. Highly recommended for unpicking many of the very problematic aspects of Judge Dredd and the police.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all we got for today. Thank you for listening. I don't know. Was this episode too heavy? I don't know. Maybe it was.
It's impossible to say, honestly.
It's definitely no brain scan episode.
No, that we kept light.
But you know what? The world's heavy. We talk about that stuff. So I guess it is what it is.
Yeah.
Can't all be funny. God damn it.
Hey, you know what's... I don't know. I can't come up with a good segue to it. What are we going to listen, or what are we going to do next week?
All right. So next week, like I mentioned, I've got a vacation coming up. I'm going to be really busy this week prepping for that. So we need another pretty easy thing to do. And so we were thinking, and we both had the idea simultaneously.
Yes.
That rather than covering the entirety of William Gibson's short story collection, Burning Chrome, we would break it up and cover individual short stories. And the first short story in Burning Chrome is Johnny Mnemonic.
Which is something we have a little familiarity with.
A little bit. And I have, of course, read Johnny Mnemonic long time ago. And we've definitely seen the movie. You have proof of that.
Yes. 98 episodes of proof.
But we've never covered the short story other than like offhandedly mentioning it on the old show.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple of instances of talking about it, but we certainly didn't get in depth.
So you could call this going back to our roots, but really the book is pretty fucking different from the movie. So we're just going to cover the Johnny Mnemonic short story from Burning Chrome for next week.
Yes, I believe you can find the short story, just like fucking Google it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was 1981, first published in Omni. And if you can't find it that way, your library will probably have Burning Chrome, published in 1986. Yeah. So.
And it is on Audible. I confirmed that.
Yeah,
before we started.
It's not terribly long. I mean, I think the short story is 20, 25 pages, maybe. So
I'm excited to revisit it. Actually, when you broached the idea, I was thinking, okay, we won't want to cover Johnny Mnemonic until you mentioned that it was number one. I'm like, we should cover Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah. Maybe we should have covered it first, actually.
Might not have been a horrible idea, but, well, we're idiots.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to go back to the sprawl. And we figure for the future, we'll be able to, like, I don't know, there are another probably 5, maybe 6 stories in Burning Chrome. We'll, kind of, if we have a short week where we fucked up and suggested something that wasn't actually cyberpunk.
Yeah. Or we have a lot to do that week and don't have time to watch a movie, I guess. Watching movies. I'm just tired of movies for now. I want to do something else. I'm excited to do a TV show when we get back and have some time to devote to it.
Yeah, we'll be able to go ahead and just kind of drop a short story in and, do that, and hopefully it'll be easy on you and us. And we're looking forward to getting back to the sprawl.
Amen. But until we do that, we're going to get back to our own private sprawls.
Sure.
My Own Private Idaho, Keanu Reeves, star of Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, fuck.
It's so
full
such a
circle.
deep reference.
Wow.
Once again, I'm ready and willing for Judge Dredd to murder me for the things I say on air.
Let's finish the podcast and then I'll tell you a thing. Right.
Okay, good night, everybody. Check us out. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/hightechlowlife. If you feel like it, please kick us some dollars and you'll get some weird bonus content that I don't know if it's good. It's there though. We make it.
You'll get to hear our live thoughts about fucking goddamn brain scans. So,
yep. And we do have some other stuff planned later on this year that isn't going to be just watching movies. So it's not going to be particularly interesting, but it's going to be fun for us.
It certainly will.
And also check us out on social media at Johnny60seconds.
Yes, please do. I'm at Ace_Collins and Eric is at The Frog.
Also check out our linktree.com or linktree/hightechlowlife. If you want to leave us a voicemail, you can do that through SpeakPipe, which is all on the Linktree. You can record your voice. If you do, we'll probably try to figure out how to play it on the air and respond to your question.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
All right. Do you have a quote?
In fact, I do. We live in an age marked by what criminologist Robert Reiner dubbed police fetishism, in which there exists the unchallenged ideological assumption that the police are a functional prerequisite of social order, so that without a police force, chaos would ensue, a thin blue line that must be reinforced at all costs. Indeed, so accepted are the police as a fact of life that we find it difficult to truly examine why they exist and understand the roots of the problems that lay at the heart of policing. In this context, a harsh but fair comic book super cop might seem a little too on the nose, too much like propaganda that already clogs TV screens and newspaper columns. Yet this is exactly the process that Dredd has been satirizing since 1977.
And I am the law.
Negotiations over. Sentence is death.
See you next time.
Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds. Email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com. And find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music provided by Nia Lore at nialore.com. Thank you for listening.
Excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.